So welcome to the Hand of Unity Ashes podcast, and we're going to talk about Ashes of Creation, a game that we're all looking forward to, and hopefully we'll be playing when we get the chance. And we're going to run these podcasts as and when it seems appropriate, as and when there's something to talk about. And I'm joined here by colleagues from the Hand of Unity Guild, but we'll introduce ourselves sort of as we go along, I think. But let's start off with Naris, you're the guild leader. Tell us, Ashes of Creation, how happy are you with the progress that we've seen so far? Because I know you've put quite a lot of money into buying the game. I put money into the Kickstarter. I think you joined after the Kickstarter, but you've put quite a lot of money in so far. You've created this guild. We've got lots of members. You can tell us a bit about the guild. But are we seeing enough progress in terms of actually making the game a reality at the moment?
So, in terms of the guild, yeah, as you say, we've gathered quite a lot of people together with lots of different aspirations and playstyles. Currently pushing towards 160 members, so things are going very well. When it comes to the game, for me personally, I get that Intrepid, are very, very passionate about what they're doing, and so is Stephen. I'm a bit of a fanboy, I must admit. But for me, I do feel that it is a classic case of really over-promising and then really under-delivering, which I don't think does anybody any good. The players, because they get disappointed, and also the dev team, because they get stressed out trying to meet deadlines that, just aren't feasible.
So when you talk about over-promising, are you talking about the game itself? Do you think that's going to under-deliver, or are you talking about sort of the hype so far, the videos they put out, the information that they put out?
Mainly in terms of deadlines, really. So, I know the before 2020 release that they were promising was a little bit of a gimmick, in all honesty, but it was very ambitious considering, it typically takes between 5 and 7 years to make a solid MMO.
Yeah. And we're also joined by Heaven Sense. Heaven, just remind me, are you a coordinator or an officer with Hand of Unity? I know I ought to know. I'm getting into trouble for not knowing. But what's your role?
I'm just a member of the Hand
just
of
a member.
Unity. I'm just a member, but I have sort of been hanging out with the guys here, sort of, from going all the way back to Arcade.
Yeah.
So I'm just a member here, so I don't have any particular role within the guild other than, just logging on and saying hi and chatting on Discord.
Well, I think maybe now should sort it out. So you were a big Arcade fan, or were you a big Arcade fan?
I was. I was a very big Arcade fan. I mean, I was very much one of the very early supporters with it, and I can go right back to my first involvement playing in CBT3 in Korea. So I've been involved with the game for a long way, and I followed it all the way through launch, and I played at launch in Korea. I was one of the first Western streamers of the Korean Arcade during closed beta and its initial launch.
So why are you involved in Ashes of Creation now? Is that going to be a sort of substitute for Arcade? Or?
Well, I wouldn't say so much a substitute for Arcade, because it's not the same game. There are many big differences in it, and I am an avid fan of MMOs. In terms of computer games, I don't enjoy single player. For me, it has to be a multiplayer game, and I like the MMORPG element. I find that whole fantasy genre sort of very intriguing and fascinating for me, and the whole concept of working together to complete quests, to progress, and to to deal with challenges that come up. That's what I find most exciting to do. And for me, Ashes has some very intriguing mechanics that have been proposed that go far beyond what we've seen in any other game. Such as the node system.
Now, I mean, one of the Intrepid Studios, the people who make Ashes of Creation, one of the promises that they've made is that this is going to be a game where the players are going to be, to some extent, involved in the development of the game, or at least we're going to see the development of the game. There's going to be a lot of transparency, and it's going to be very much developed sort of in the open. And quite a lot of people I know, other streamers and vloggers, bloggers on YouTube and elsewhere, have been a bit disappointed recently. And I think Naris was talking about that as well. Do you feel that we're getting enough information about Ashes of Creation at the moment?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's good that you phrased it that way, because it makes that careful distinction between progress and communication of progress. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think the first thing we have to, really hammer home is the fact that this is a very ambitious project with very ambitious goals. They're promising a lot of mechanics that we don't even see in one game, let alone having, all of these things brought together, such as an MMORPG with a stock exchange, with sieges, with nodes where you can level up different nodes to city states. There's a lot of ambition there. In terms of communication, it has been very poor and very disappointing. And what worries me in particular is that we don't seem to have much of the basic mechanics being passed on to us. I mean, it's one thing to, know how the mechanics of the game you're proposing work, and then, of course, it takes a lot of time to implement them. But what worries me in particular is we've not really been told anything about the mechanics, let alone how they're going to be implemented. And I think that's a major concern, particularly looking forward to the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And also we're joined by Herdo, who is a joint guild leader alongside Naris. So Herdo, I mean, what do you make of what you've heard so far? Do you agree that there are problems, or do you have concerns at the moment?
About development or the game itself?
Yeah, about the development and whether the game is going to live up to what we all hope it's going to live up to.
Well, I think me, as well as everybody else in the guild, we all have high expectations about AOC, like finally being the savior of the MMORPG genre, like Arcade should have been, and like Black Desert should have been. And of course, most of us, not all of us, but most of us were early adopters for AOC. So we joined during the Kickstarter phase in, I think it was May 2017.
Yep.
And we got our packages back then, and we slowly grouped up around that time, and we grew over time. And we got a lot of information during the Kickstarter phase back then. But of course, they said once they need a lot of time if they want to make live streams and show a lot of stuff all the time. Therefore, I think we're pretty good with once in a month live stream and several blog posts now. So we see that they do progress, but of course we all have to be a little bit patient and wait for content to appear.
Yeah, I have to say, for me, I'm happy to be patient, and I'm happy for them only to put out content and information when they really have it. I do think that, as Nari said, they may have overpromised. They may have given people the impression that they were going to sort of constantly be publishing these videos or whatever. But if that's not happening, it doesn't mean that the game's going badly. It just means that they made some promises about PR that they're not keeping. I mean, that's the way I see it anyway. But I know there are others who perhaps have a slightly different view. But Herdo, as I can recall, the latest live stream was to do with showing us their building tool. But there have been, which perhaps wasn't as informative as it may have been, but there have been some other pretty good live streams before that, such as the nodes live stream and nodes information that they gave us. What do you make of the latest live streams and blog posts that we've been seeing from Intrepid?
For the live stream, I can say I'm really impressed with this building tool they built there. So they can handle work from the programmers to the designers. So I think that it's a pretty good approach they take. Normally you have like game developers who make the engine and sometimes also design the level. And they split it up like, yeah, we build the tools and our designers can build houses from templates. They can build so many variations. and they have so many options. So I think that is really good progress they made, and I think we will speed up a lot now during this year. Hopefully, fast enough to maybe see the release this year. Hopefully.
Uh-huh.
And for the
Sorry,
blog
carry on.
post, for the
Yeah.
blog post, I would say it wasn't that many information in there. It was just showing off the screenshots basically and writing a little bit text. Not that awesome, to be honest.
Do you think that we might see the game this year? I mean, I've begun to just kind of assume it won't be released until 2020. Do you think it might come out this year?
I hope.
Yeah.
Because I want to take a lot of vacation when it comes out, so I really hope.
I mean, we might see it definitely in playable form in some form because, of course, they've promised that we'll be able to play Alpha 1, Alpha 2, and the various betas, at least those people who've paid. Heaven sent, did you catch the streaming and I think they did a nice YouTube video as well. It may have just been a YouTube video to stream on the nodes technology. Did you see that at all?
Yes, I did. Yes, yeah. And I mean, the first thing to say is you can see how the whole team is developing in terms of their professionalism in delivering material. It has changed a lot. And you can see we started off with a relatively inexperienced team when it came to development. And of course, many of them had been involved in many other projects. But in terms of the code development, they have been sort of developing their expertise. And it's good to see now that they can get the live stream started in a timely manner without the usual sound problems and camera problems that they have been facing. But just something I wanted to pick up that Herdo said. I mean, Stephen has said now that we won't be getting a 2019 release and that it will be delayed. And all we've heard is it will be delayed by months. But I wouldn't be surprised personally if it was delayed until 2022. And I personally don't think that's a bad thing. I would sooner see them develop a product that can offer good gameplay and sustained interest and release something just to appease people who are demanding that it should be released immediately. And I think even then, we aren't going to see all the features promised. I think we may see a release initially without the siege mechanics in, without the sea battles in.
Yeah.
Just because you can see the complexity of what they're offering to deliver.
I mean, some of the talk about doing stuff at sea, and Stephen has spoken about that in Stephen what's his title? The guy from Intrepid. Is he the MD or the chief developer? I don't know what his title is, but he's
chief creative director, I believe it is.
Chief creative director. The man in charge, basically, more or less. I mean, he's spoken about sea battles, but it just strikes me that's the sort of thing that they could do in expansion. They could get it all working, all the stuff that's taking place on land, and you could add a load of content in sea sort of later on, maybe. But it would make an obvious expansion. We have seen some details published about one type of node, which is the scientific node, on the Ashes of Creation website. And they talk about the different buildings that you get if you choose to build up a scientific node. You get a library, a college, eventually a university, and you get certain special abilities. In fact, every node will have what they call a superpower. And for the scientific node, the superpower is the ability to teleport across the map, only to other parts of the region that the node is in, not all across the map. But nonetheless, you get a version of fast travel around your region if you have
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, but I do find it interesting because, of course, we can see that the scientific node is the least contentious node. It has the least dependency on other regions and other guilds and members of the node. And compared, for example, to the warrior node or the fighting node or whatever you want to call it, where, of course, they've said the node leadership will be done by personal combat or by combat, and then you get into this whole thing. Well, is that going to be a one-on-one duel challenge? When are the challenges going to be? How often are the challenges going to be? Who's going to be allowed to challenge? Is it just going to be guild leaders? Is it just going to be members of the node? How are they going to control members of the node to make sure that people don't deliberately try to undermine the process for things like the military node? There are all these contentious issues about the basic mechanics of how these nodes will work that we haven't heard anything about, and that does worry me slightly. I would have thought at this stage they would have had a better understanding that they could express to us about how the mechanics of these different nodes would work, particularly then when it comes to them working together. For example, even if they use the battle royale type gameplay to determine the leader, you could see how that could be abused by a guild getting all 50 players from its own guild in and just them, and then they deliberately throw the match so that their leader wins.
Yeah, well, it would definitely be good to get more information about the other nodes. As far as I'm aware, I think I'm right in saying the only node type that they've given a great deal of information about so far is the scientific node. They've promised that the economic node type will be next in terms of publishing an article telling us all about the node, but we haven't had it yet. Now, what do you make of the node system and Ashes of Creation, and have we decided as a guild? You can give us perhaps a bit of a spoiler here, the rest of the membership. Do we know what type of node we're going to go for when we play?
So I think at the moment, given that there are 6 members of us in the ruling council, and as I say, nearly 160 members, there are a lot of different opinions. PvP players tend to lean towards the military node. Crafters tend to lead towards scientific, and personally, I quite like the sound of an economic node because I believe that, money equals power in a lot of different MMOs. I think the major issue is, for me, again, we don't really have the full picture. So at the moment, we still don't know the benefits that a divine node will give you, and we still haven't had the in-depth look at the other nodes that Intrepid has really promised us. And I think this comes back to the whole trust issue, which is where they keep promising new content, new cosmetics, and although given their due, they are really, really trying hard, they just aren't meeting those deadlines. And given that they're relying on a subscription model, which, does require that bit of relationship development, at the heart of that relationship is trust. And at the moment, I think, it's something that Intrepid are really struggling to build with players due to, again, the overpromising and the under-delivering. So we need to wait and see, really. That's the key thing.
If I may hook in here,
Yeah.
they also disappointed a lot of European players when they announced the deal with My.com last year. I think there was a major backslash for them too.
Just remind us, I have read about this, I'm aware of this, but what is the issue with My.com?
Well, basically the issue is that My.com, as well as Mail.ru, so Mail Russia, is a company which mostly provided free-to-play / pay-to-win games, online multiplayer games, and the reputation, the customer service reputation, and their security reputation, etc. Everything of that is bad. So basically, when this was announced, all the people were like, "Oh no, please, everybody accept them." And this went so far that Stephen had to come online and give a longer statement about why they choose them and not somebody else as publisher for Europe.
I think the one saving grace for me when it comes to My.com is the fact that in the past, they have been running these MMOs which have a very tight budget. They're free-to-play games, and no doubt the actual server specifications, weren't the best because the money wasn't there. So I'm hopeful if Intrepid have really, done their due diligence, the servers themselves should be relatively high quality. So, in terms of lag and issues with the actual game world, which I know a few users have mentioned on the forums and whatnot, hopefully that won't be an issue. But again, that really is just a case of waiting and seeing, to be honest.
Now, so I wanted to ask you something else. Going back very much to the sort of the gameplay of Ashes of Creation, what else would you like to learn more about? I think we all would agree probably that we'd like to hear more about the nodes and the different types of nodes. So leaving that aside, what else would you like to see the developers telling us more about?
Personally, I would like to see some more information on kind of more group content, so raiding and dungeons and that sort of thing, because I think they really do bring players and members of a guild together. I certainly missed them when we played Black Desert Online as a guild, and although they had little areas where lots of mobs spawned, they really didn't give you that dungeon feeling, and it really was a shame. So some more information would certainly be nice.
And can you tell us a bit about the preparations that the guild has been doing for Ashes of Creation? How is Hand of Unity doing?
So yeah, at the moment it's quite difficult with the limited information, but that's not to say that we're sat around doing nothing. We are playing lots of different games, but while we're doing that, we're also making a few preparations. One of those is in terms of our unit system, which I'm sure Herdo can talk you through in much more detail. But in terms of a too long didn't read, it's essentially a guild-wide DKP system that rewards members and ensures that members essentially get things out based upon what they put into the community. And it also stops the issue where, the leadership take, and give nothing back. Alongside that, we're also planning to immobilize in quite some numbers through WoW Classic. So at the moment, we're creating spreadsheets, macros, and guides for that. And we've also started to put together for Ashes of Creation a guild-wide release document. It's going to be a huge plan. I think Herdo's up to about 10 pages on it now, and we will be contributing to that as we go along, as well as putting out, so quite detailed, as well as putting out quite a lot of guides and information as we get into the castle sieges and the horde mode through our partner, which is the AOCdungeon.com.
Yeah, it's all very well organised. That's why I'm not a guild leader. It sounds too much like hard work for me. But Herdo, obviously you're the co-leader. What else do you want to tell us about the preparations that we're making for Ashes of Creation?
Well, sadly not much to add right now that we want to make public. We have a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, a lot of documents and plans about what we're going to do about throughout this year, 2019, and what we want to have finished until AOC goes into Alpha 1. Well, the new Alpha 1 Phase 2. So
yeah,
we are prepared in the leadership, and we will prepare our members when the time comes.
Yeah, well, you say there's not a lot to say, but I have to say I think what Naris and you have told us is actually quite a lot. It sounds like there's a lot going on, and I think it's worth just pointing out that I know for me at least, and I reckon I can probably speak for everybody here on this, I'm actually really looking forward to Ashes of Creation. I mean, we have a bit of a moan, and I know other fans of the game have been having a bit of a moan recently, but that's because people are so invested in this game, I think, because for a lot of us, we've played MMOs, and it's been a long time since there's been a really good MMO which hasn't in some way had a problem. For me, Arcade was really, really good. I thought Arcade was loads of fun. But then the way it was handled, we don't need to go into this in a load of detail, but the way it became such a pay-to-win game, once it was actually launched officially, there were all sorts of problems with the way it was managed, and that was a great shame. So I'm really looking forward to having a good sandboxy MMO, a real sort of living world, which is what they seem to be trying to give us. And that's why so many of us are sort of following the progress of this game with so much interest. But it's also why people get so invested in it and so, upset, if that's a word, or a little bit critical if things are not working out how they want it to work out. I think it's because we're looking forward to the game so much. But while we wait, and we're going to have a long time waiting, very quick one. What are people going to be playing while we wait? Heaven Sent, are you playing any games at the moment?
Well, I have been playing very heavily the New World Alpha, which is a sort of fantastic PvP-centered game focused around sort of 17th century supernatural type environment, which is great fun. And of course, also playing Star Citizen, which I do enjoy greatly.
Yeah, I was amazed when I played Star Citizen to find out that it was a real game and you could actually play it, and it's actually pretty good. It's got a bad reputation with some people, but it's definitely worth playing. Herdo, what are you playing at the moment?
I'm playing Anno 1800 right now, as well as Battlefield 1 yet again, and a little bit City Skylines and PUBG as well.
And now, how about you?
Currently at the moment, about 40 of us are playing on the private WoW Classic server, Chronos Free, as we get ready for the release of official WoW Classic later on this year. And alongside that, we've also got a community-run Minecraft server. So, mainly those two games, really.
And so once WoW Classic officially launches, Blizzard launches it, is that going to be a bit of a guild project, or a lot of people going to be playing on that?
Yeah, absolutely. At the moment, we have over 70 people signed up. So there's an awful lot of interest, and we're hoping that will keep us tided over while we wait for Ashes of Creation.
Fantastic. Well, I think that just about wraps it up. Thank you very much indeed for listening, and you can find out more about Hand of Unity at our website. Now I saw somebody just reminded what our website address is again.
handofunity.eu.
Yep, nice and easy. And we have a Discord where people can come and find us. But the easiest thing is go to the Hand of Unity website, handofunity.eu. There's information there about how to come and find us on Discord, have a chat, find out more about the guild, or even how to sign up and join us if you want to consider doing that. Thank you very much for listening.